Welcome in the Crop and the Cream for ISTV.
Hey,
I am Solo Star. This is
Sadiq
Sadiq
Jordan.
We are Dream World.
Yes, sir. Coming from starting with the DBA thing, that was kind of like the inception that you kind of brought, with the best around DBA. That you kind of brought me into the fold with that right there, and then through different members kind of doing their own thing and changing. Um, we was kind of the last two left from that, so we kind of had to rebrand. And the thing that kind of fit best with us was we was always in our imagination anyway. I mean, we always kind of lived in that space where it was like, how can we make our fantasies, come to life almost? How can we make it combine with this world? It's like creating a space where you live in where the possibilities are just pure, they endless. There is no stop, there is no border, they infinite. Dream world is that. Dream world is all possibilities are endless.
Yeah, Dream World to me has always been like where I go when I fantasize what we could be. That's like Dream World is always where I go when I just want to just envision or materialize, what we're gonna do. And it's like it's a boundaryless, just what I mean. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just a boundaryless land that's like we just roam free and do whatever the fuck we want. But it's like creatively, it's being different with a purpose, not just being different and just for the sake of being different.
Right.
It's being different with like a meaning. You know what I mean? So that to me would encapsulate Dream World. Just to give you guys a little background, DBA was the first the first group, and really to me it's like a super group that went through like different evolutions.
Yeah.
We had people. It was like, what I mean. The very first, I believe, was me, you, and Jabril, right? Me, you, Lambo.
Nah, it was actually you and him.
Oh, me and Lambo.
Yeah.
Word up. Yeah, me and Lambo, and then oh yeah, because then you started because you wasn't rapping at first, and
Right.
then yeah, and then yeah, so you got brought in, and then at a certain point,
Balboa came in.
yeah, and it was like a small overlap of like four of us.
Right.
It was like a real short window of the four of us, and
Allow
then
me to introduce DBA.
yeah, yeah, no, some shit in the basement.
Right,
Um,
right.
but yeah. We was just talking about that too. I mean, we pretty much started in a small apartment. My dad had a
What state?
studio, and you know, just off that, like me being 13 or 14 or whatever, and we just took it and ran with it. So it was like being back then. We was talking, we was talking about do you remember when we did Ghost 2 and we was recording
Hell
them
yeah.
like in front of the door kind of?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. We was just talking about that cuz Lambo came over. Like we was just literally just talking about that shit, and I was like, "Yo, I remember, like, I know it's Ghost 2. I don't remember how it went, but I know it's Ghost 2. I know that's what it was called.
In
I
the
know
corner
that."
all day from morning to sundown, fooling with some clown, giving them the rundown, or something like that. You said.
Like I
You
couldn't tell
remember
you.
that?
I don't. Nah. That's
And nigga Magic is spitting. When I'm spitting, you listen. You think your written's are ripping me. I
me. I
will
will
rip
rip with you,
written.
and Misty. Yeah, I see. I remember you. I remember that verse, but I couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. Like that's in my brain. I think I've locked that section off. I think it's just like it's literally just for the days when I'm like sober. It's like it's the sobering thoughts that lie in that area. Oh, Trenton is where we are from. Trenton, New Jersey. There's a lot of Trentons out there, Michigan.
Yes, and all that. Trenton, New Jersey. Let's be
Trenton,
specific.
New Jersey. I don't know, man. Like when we was growing up, it wasn't. We had shit in the house that, you know what I mean, you wouldn't grow up with. Like you had a mom and dad,
right,
that played shit that people today can't say mom and dad played that. You know what I mean?
Fortunate.
They could say grandma played that,
yeah,
or you know what I mean, auntie or some shit. Nah, mom and dad. So basically, we grew up like we had a lot of funk, soul, shit. Like I don't even know. It was just oldies, man. Like fucking, you name it. Like
you're right. You're right.
You name it. We had everything. Like
we were introduced to all that old school stuff early, man.
Yeah, disco, man.
Before each of us was 10, we knew who the Jackson 5 was. We knew who the Spinners was, the Stylistics. We knew who Parliament Funk was before each of us was 10.
Yeah, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Earth, Wind, and Fire. Let me not forget them, the legends. They got my favorite song ever. You know what I mean?
For the folks who don't know, this man is my uncle. All right, he's my uncle. I'm his nephew. But due to the way that we had to grow up, and it's interesting because I said this to somebody. I think I was at your wedding party, your wedding after party.
Yeah.
And I was explaining it, and I'm like, and I think Peter was like, yo, you gotta like preface that with something else. I was like, yeah, it kind of sounds like we hillbillies, don't it? I was like, yeah, that's like my uncle brother. He was like, yeah, you gotta like preface that with like a story because that's, you sound like a hillbilly. I was like, yeah. So he's my uncle, but he's only 2 years older than me. So we basically grew up in the same house like we were brothers. Yeah, it's not like weird, like, you know what I mean? My mom is like my sister or something. I don't know how to explain it. Like I don't it's not that, but
no, it's regular. It's just we definitely consider ourselves brothers because of the way we grew up. You know what I mean? We was raised like we was brothers, not uncle and nephew. So
yeah. Same house on Christmases, and you know what I mean, fighting over the remote, shit like that. All right. Go ahead. So for both of us, because we had a lot of the same ones.
That's what I'm saying. We grew up in the same crib, so.
So Michael Jackson was a big influence.
Might be the biggest.
Yeah, it might be the biggest. Earth, Wind, and Fire definitely, I would say, influenced, if not the way we write music, then the way we go about approaching music. I would definitely say that. Sure. The instrumentation, the vast instrumentation that we like. Marley was definitely one.
Marley for sure.
Let me see.
I mean, it's like Hove, Tupac, you know what I mean? As far as hip hop go, those two specifically, you know, stand out. M had his influences, you know what I mean, on us, you know what I mean. Man, we could really go through the gambit, man. I know people don't mess with R. Kelly right now, but R. Kelly was a beast.
I was just thinking about that last night, bro.
I'm not saying I want to go out to dinner with him or nothing, but you know what I mean? Like, we got so many influences, dog. Yeah. Cuddy's been a huge influence in us. And once we got a little older and Cuddy came out, Kanye, you know what I mean? Ye is such a big influence, man. Such a big influence.
I think Ye got such a big reach that it's like it's hard to hit somebody who's not had an influence from Ye.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, Drake.
Drake's another one. Yeah, we got a lot of them, man. We got a lot of influences that brought us to music. That's one thing about us, is that we always was willing to accept anything that we consider dope. I don't care what it come from. It could be a hard rock guitar. It could be some hard bars being spit. You know what I mean?
Fallout Boy.
Right. Come on, man. Fallout Boy is another one. Come on, man. We'll be here all day doing this. You know what I mean?
Word up.
We'll be here all day. But if I had to pick 5 off the, like, real quick, we just run through them real quick. I would say MJ, Michael Jackson. I would say Hove. I would say Tupac. I would say Marley. And for a 5th one, I would probably throw EWF in there, Earth, Wind, and Fire. You know what I mean? Those would probably be my 5 of how our styles kind of formed. You know what I mean? Like the way we came up with our styles was kind of like an amalgamation of those guys. You know what I mean? With
and if I could throw a little caveat in there, it would be Outkast. That's only little add in, like that's a little bit of spice you throw on at the end.
Yeah. That's the little sprinkles. That's the sprinkle, for sure. I was, like you said, I wasn't really no rapper when we first started. I wrote poetry. I wrote stuff, you know what I mean? But I never was like no real rapper, nothing like that. You had already been rapping for a little minute, you know what I mean? Like a couple years when I first was like, when you first kind of was like, maybe like a year or so, when I first kind of like was starting to do what I was like more. And I just remember how into it you were, you know what I mean? How much life it brought to you, you know what I mean? How much, you know what I mean? And from the jump, you had like a connection with it. So it was like, all right, cool. And I just remember like going back and forth with you about, now I'm not doing it. Yeah, we doing it. And just remember that the angst you had, like it was almost like you had a chip on your shoulder, but there wasn't really no reason to have a chip on your shoulder because nobody was coming at you or nothing like that. But you had this chip on your shoulder, you know what I mean? And then to watch, you know, because I was there the whole time, to watch you go from basically a guy spitting bars to a guy that can melodically spit bars or just say, you know, fuck it, I'm gonna go 70s on this joint, I'm gonna go 80s on this joint, I'm gonna do some 90s type time on this joint, you know what I mean? The versatility that you've brought to Dream World, you know what I mean? And just in your natural abilities as an artist, the versatilities that you brought has made you unique in that sense. It's like a male Lauryn Hill, but you bring another element, you know what I mean? Because it's both the East Coast thing, but you bring another element that isn't there in other music, you know what I mean? Because of the influences you got, you know what I mean? You bring something different, you know, it's more so the way your pen work, or today is not pen, but the way you know what I mean, like the way you write, your exuberance, you know what I mean, the way you write and your exuberance in your writing sets you apart, you know what I mean. It always has. It's kind of made my job a lot easier in being in a group with you, because I don't have to be bar man, I don't have to sing great or nothing like that, you know what I mean. I got you that can always, you know, all right, I'm slipping, I ain't got to worry about it because I know Solo gonna do what he got to do. You know what I mean?
And it's crazy because I've always felt like you've grounded us to an extent. Like, I mean, you dream, but you definitely, like, I'll go way out left field. You'll be like, nah, bruh, I don't think we need to go that far out there. We could just go like, just give me like a double, like right here, like we'll be all right. Like you don't gotta go all the way to fuck. Like nah, I'll be trying to go all the way to fuck out there. You definitely you keep us in the realm of reality to the point where we can, you know what I mean, at least get people to listen to it. Because I know the shit I'll be coming with sometimes be like crazy. Another thing is, I don't think people understand like the writing ability that you have, because you might not, it might not come across in a way that they're used to. You know what I mean? Like the song we got coming, Sugar Funk. Like you basically came to me with that whole shit, and like, bro, I ain't have to do nothing. Like I love that shit. But shit like that, like shit that people might not even expect you to write, you know what I mean? Or expect you to be, because somebody will ask me like, what was one of the Jones, The Glow. Somebody asked me about The Glow. They was like, oh, you wrote that hook, huh? I was like, nah, I ain't touched that shit. Like, bro, that's all him. I was like, yo, that nigga just be coming with shit. And they was like, oh shit.
the thing that makes our chemistry so unique is not only that we grew up together, right? Not only that we we see things similarly. However, just being different people, we have different approaches to it. You know what I mean? So even though we might see things similarly, the execution, the way we go about actually getting it done is just slightly different. But it's in a way where my strengths and your strengths come together and make one big ass strength. You know what I mean? Like it's not like I'm stepping on your toes or you stepping on mine, or neither one of us do this thing, so it kind of leaves that part of the music out. To me, and from what I see, we always trying to show, okay, let Solo gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, but because you covered this 50% of the pie, now it's my job to cover this 50% of the pie, and then we create a whole big ass pie based on that. Like that's what makes us so unique, is that we look at every project, every song, every moment as its own moment. You know what I mean? And we treat it as we recognize that 1+1 equals, recognize that, you know what I mean? And we've always kind of recognized that 1+1 equals 3. It's not, you know what I mean? Like me and you are two individuals, and then we come together and make Dream World.
Get into it first.
You know me, Libra scales, man. It changes for me, man. It changes. I'm man. At one point it was 9 ball, you know what I mean? But today it's 8 ball, you know what I mean? Like that's 8 ball is the first we've done. So that it was so important because I remember the years before that where we hadn't done anything. You know what I mean? The years before 8 ball, we hadn't done anything. You see what I'm saying? So for me, you know what I mean, just as a personal thing, it was such a big accomplishment, such a big milestone to actually have a project that's out on major platforms that we've, the songs we've talked about doing, and we've talked about putting something out, and we finally did it. You know what I mean? 9 ball is like the culmination of that. So sometimes, some days that's my favorite, but I gotta be honest, 8 ball, you know what I mean, is my favorite because it's the first one. But if you ask me in a week, it'll be the Rhythm and Vibe series because it's what we're doing right now. You know what I'm saying? So it changes all the time, man. 8 ball for me right now, though.
Okay. All right. Yeah. 9 ball. 9 ball was probably, to me, the most complete, because we got 4 out now.
Yeah.
And to me, 9 ball is probably the most complete. I don't know if that's because it got the most songs, but to me, it's the most complete. Like we covered a lot of ground on 9. Rhythm and Vibes is just, we wanted you to be able to feel every bit of it, because that's what you feel as a person. You feel rhythms and you feel vibrations. Okay, that's what you feel. So that's what we wanted you to feel it. That's really what it is. I mean, he gonna get more technical with it because this was his brainchild. This is his baby. So he's gonna get more in depth. But to me, it was just, I want you to feel it, every bit of it, and you know what I mean. I wanted to make it quintessential Dream World while still keeping it as authentic as possible. There we go.
Right. No, I mean that's pretty much the same thing I was gonna say. I mean, the biggest thing is, I mean, it's not really something I came up with. It really was, Solo. One time I came, we just fucking around, doing whatever we do, and he played a beat, you know what I mean? And as soon as the beat come on, it was fire, you know what I mean? It sounded like something from the 80s. And then he just kind of came in with this hook that I had never, I didn't expect the hook to come out of his mouth, you know what I mean? I didn't expect to hear what he said, and that song ended up being Hypno Bliss, and I remember as soon as he did it, once again, he just sparked all the inspiration in my mind, like, oh, this is a whole series of things. Just a couple questions that I wanted to ask. You know what I mean? How did the area that you grew up in influence the sound? You know what I mean? We talked about our influences of music, but how did we, growing up in Trenton, New Jersey, you know what I mean? How did that influence the sound for you?
For me, weather played a big factor. So being cold a lot definitely. I guess it formed some animosity in you. Plus, I was kind of small. I am kind of small. Let me just rephrase that. I am kind of small. Not in the places that count though. Anyway, so I think a lot of the grittiness and the standoffishness, if that's a word, I don't know if that's a word.
The word
But a lot of that came from growing up in Trenton and growing up in a place where it wasn't customary to walk up to somebody on the street and say, hi, how you doing, or what's up, my name is such and such. Like, it wasn't customary to do that. You walking down the street and you even wave your hand the wrong way, you know what I mean? It could be a whole different story. So it's like that definitely shapes and molds the way you make your music, because you're not coming from this happy-go-lucky, you know what I mean, cookie cutter ass place where it's like, you know, I walk down the street. I remember walking down the street and like seeing a blonde white lady like running down the street, like walking her dog. And I was like, yo, what the fuck is this? Like, I didn't even know like how to react. I'm like, I'm looking for a camera and shit, because the only place I see this shit is on movies. So I'm like, or on TV or some shit. I'm like, where the fuck is the camera? Why is somebody trying to set me up with this white lady? And then I'm like, oh no, she's just doing this. Like, this is some regular shit for her.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, it's definitely different. Like, and for us to be able to make some of the happier music that we did, it's like being in that place is like, it's really draining. So it how did it affect it for you though? Because it's like, even though we are both I was black men, we definitely had different experiences. You know, I am a little bit more pigment I'm gonna call it blessed.
More brown.
Yeah, but in this world,
melanated.
You definitely have the advantage. Advantage you.
For sure, yeah. Yeah. Slightly, but it's there.
Yeah.
Only if we standing next to each other.
Yeah, word up. Yeah. Or if you standing next to somebody who's actually like really, really white. Yeah.
You know they're gonna want to talk to me first.
Yeah, word.
But no, I mean, for me, it was more so. I've always been a personable person, you know what I mean? Going back to maybe like 12 years old, 13 years old, around that time I started coming out of my shell. And, you know, I've because I'm personable, because I can have a conversation with anybody, people would just walk up to me and talk to me, you know what I mean, from a young age. And I tried to shy away from it really early, you know what I mean, because I didn't want to do it, you know what I mean? That wasn't comfortable for me. I just learned that that's who I am and I got to accept it, you know what I mean? It kind of dive on in, if you will. You know what I'm saying? So
dive on in.
Right. so you know what I mean? I kind of had to deal with that, kind of live with that, you know what I mean? But it influenced the sound, just being around people, because, you know, people have an idea of how Trenton exactly is one way all the time, and that's just not the truth, you know what I mean? Growing up, there was kids who played ball. There was kids who only went to school, went home, and that was it. You know what I mean? There was kids who hung out after school. You know what I mean? It was outside till 2, 3 in the morning. You know what I mean? And all that kind of stuff. So like I said, I was fortunate enough to be the type of person, like a social butterfly, where I fit into those layers no matter what, and just be me, and people still be like, okay, he's comfortable being him. He can rock with us. It shaped the sound. Like, I didn't want to sound like what the stuff I was hearing everybody listen to, because it didn't stand out to me. Nobody kind of had their own sound. It was kind of like one sound. You know what I mean? My idea was, let's take this one sound and say, yeah, let's represent this sound, but let's also represent ourselves. Let's represent our true story, where we come from. You know, the house we grew up in, we had to go into our imagination. You know what I mean? We had no choice. You see what I'm saying? It wasn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't no just living in reality. It's bad, you know what I mean? So we had to go into our imagination. So it was combining that imagination with that real world we lived in. You know what I mean? You hear a story about somebody I never forget, man. Shout out to Eric, man. I hope everything well. I haven't talked to him since I was 15, but when we was 15, you know, the man Eric did dirty, and you know he went to jail for a minute. You know what I mean? Somebody was talking to his girl, and he, you know, and we was play ball all the time, but you know he did something that you know put him away for time. You know what I mean? And having to combine that with those happy moments that we created in our minds that you're talking about, those Christmas mornings that we created, those Friday nights, pizzas and Hollywood videos, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? All of those happy moments we had, we put all those happy moments and mixed them with the things we experienced out there. And, you know what I mean? Me getting my iPod, you know what I mean? Took off me and all that stuff, you know what I mean? Like all of that stuff, you know what I mean? We mixed that together and created a sound that to me is like, it's like a remember the Moon Crunch candies? I mean the Moon Crunch what they call, I don't even know what they call them, pastries. I don't know what they call it.
Oh, the little cakes.
Yeah. How it's like smooth but crunchy at the same time. I feel like that's kind of how it influenced us. You know what I mean? Like where it's got a smoothness, but it's also crunchy because of where we grew up at. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. It also got that in it too. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, that's basically it for me. But I got just one more question, man. One more question.
All right, go ahead.
And I want to know the answer to this question because I think about it all the time. I'll be watching people who do it. Most difficult part of being an independent artist, and the best part of being an independent artist.
All right. The easier part of that question is the easiest or the best part. The best part is the freedom, the independent, the actual independence that you have.
Right.
Nobody can take away what you know, what you have or what you made because you have it all. You know what I mean? You own your stuff. You own what you've done. So it's like having that freedom and being able to drop whenever you want to, being able to do stuff, you know, where it's like you can just, like if I wanted to drop something tomorrow, I could do it because, you know, I don't have a contract telling me that, you know, it's against it to release music without the consent of somebody else.
Right.
But the hardest part for me, at least, is probably like I said, the behind the scenes, the months of work that has to go into you hearing a 30-minute project. You know what I mean? It's and then it's, you know, getting everything together so that as many people can hear it as possible, because that's not as easy as people make it out to seem, because it's like you got to do a lot of stuff, and when you don't actually have the resources, or you know what I mean, the people around necessary to build an entire team. You know what I mean? It's like it's really hard to pinpoint where you need to put your focus at certain times, where you need to, you know what I mean, go hard at certain things and leave certain things for later, or you know what I mean? It's just nuances that you don't get because you don't actually know the game, you're still learning. So it's like that's probably the hardest part. And I think talking to people, that's pretty much been the hardest part for everybody. It's like working, navigating that aspect of it, that business aspect of it. It's like, for an artist, you're completely thrown out of the stream you were born in. You know what I mean? You were born in this stream of consciousness that says it doesn't have to be all 1 + 1 = 2. It doesn't have to be all, you know what I mean? This fits here, this fits there. It can be whatever the fuck you want it to be. And then you go into this other part of it that's like, no, everything needs to be how it is. You know what I mean? Everything is how it, you know what I mean? It's all science. So it's like, I don't know. That's probably the hardest part for me.
I mean, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. I think the hardest part is definitely the fact that I think it's the same. It's really the same answer for me. You know what I mean? It's the freedom. It's both. That's the hardest part, and it's the best part. You know what I mean? That's the most difficult part and the best part, because the freedom, with the freedom, like you said, there's no shackles on you. There's no make a song for this, make a song for that. We're not putting out any of your music unless you do this. There's none of that. So you feel free as an artist as fuck. You know what I mean? You feel like it's a blank, whole world is a blank canvas that you can do whatever you want on. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You could put your toenails on it if you felt like it. You know what I mean? Whatever. You know what I mean? You could do anything you felt like. But then it's the same thing it's the same flip side of that, is that with that freedom comes responsibility. You know what I mean? And the responsibility isn't the tough part. It's the fact that without the machine, without the mainstream, without the people that have the connections and the networks to put you on the stages where people can say, oh, this motherfucker dope. You know what I mean? But without that stage, you know what I mean? Without the people that's pushing you there, it makes it a harder road. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying that, like, to me, that's the business side. That side of it is what kind of makes it more difficult to actually get into. It's a thrilling challenge. You know what I mean? It's a thrilling challenge. You know what I mean? I'm one of the people that enjoy being frustrated with things I love to do. You know what I mean? So it's thrilling for me to go through it. But at the same time, like you said, not having those doors open because someone that knows that person that owns the key to that door. You know what I mean? Like you don't know the person that owns the key to that door, or you don't even know somebody that knows the person that owns the key to the door. You know what I mean? Like you literally gotta come in and say, hey, I deserve to be in this room, and this is why. You know what I mean? You gotta prove yourself. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not opposed to that. It's just that would be the most difficult part of being an independent artist. I love the freedom of it, you know, but with that freedom comes the fact that ain't nobody checking for you. You know, ain't nobody over your neck. Ain't nobody saying, hey, we'll put you on MTV or we'll put you on whatever the fuck stage. You know what I mean? We're in, we're out. You know, that for me, that would be, for me, that would be it for sure. I say that. But yeah, man, that was my two questions I had.